So the next part of this unit is looking at inequalities. And we'll start with what is an inequality? An inequality compares two expressions. An equation makes two things equal to each other. An inequality, sometimes they're not equal to each other. So these are inequalities, and we have this notation. And you've seen this notation before, right? What does this symbol mean? A is bigger than or greater than B. The next one, A is less than B. So what's the difference between the first one and the third one? There's, like, looking at them, there's an extra little line. But what does that extra line mean? Does anyone know? No? Okay. So if it's just this one, that means A is greater than B. If it is the greater than and it has the line, A is greater than, or it could possibly be equal to B. So that's like a half an equal sign. So it means they could be equal. Oh, what just happened? There we go. A is greater than or equal to B. And then the next one, I know I'm going fast. I'll give you some time, don't worry. So I'll give you some time to write those down. Okay, so a little bit of talking about these. Because sometimes, did your middle school teacher ever make this like a Pac-Man and say, it eats the bigger one? Yeah, you've seen that before? And that's great. But I find that the idea of eating the bigger one doesn't let you read it very easy. Okay? In other words, when I know, okay, A is the bigger one, but now when I want to read it, I have to still think about how am I going to say this. So one of the things that I find useful or helpful when reading these is on this sign, there's like 2 points on this side, 1 point on this side. 2 is bigger than 1. So if you read it this way, you would say bigger than or greater than. If you would read it this way and hit the small part first, you would say less than. So it makes sense when I see this, I say A is less than B, because I hit the small part first. But I can always read it backwards too. B is greater than A. And if you think about this dot thing that way, 2 dots versus 1 dot, you can read it a lot faster, rather than having to take that extra step to like, oh, Pac-Man eats the bigger one, this one's bigger, now how do I read this backwards? There you go. So here we have A less than or equal to B. And you can just see that when you read it. If you read it backwards, B is greater than or equal to A. So what we have next in our question here, can we create inequalities for this? How is this math related? So in Manitoba, you have to be at least 16 years old to get your license. No, you could be 16. Okay? However, can you imagine if it was only equal to 16? This would be a problem. Because if you only have 1 year in your life to get your license. If you don't get it, no, sorry, you're done forever. That would be terrible. There you go. So how do we write this? I'm going to use age. I'm going to use A for age. Your age has to be something with 16. What symbol would I put in there? Greater than, and you'd also need the equals there, because you could be 16 and you could be older, but no 2-year-olds are allowed. What happens if you were in a very advanced 2, right? Yeah, like. And sometimes that's the situation. Sometimes they make exceptions, but for driver's licenses, I don't believe they make any exceptions. To win prizes from the Winnipeg Free Press Kids Club, you must be 14 years old or younger. Right? And I mean, I always got away with it because I went to the graphic arts and they made a fake license that said I was less than 14. Wow. That is bad logic, right? If you made a fake license to show you were under 14, they'd probably be on to you. So here we're going to use A for age again. And we have a 14 on this side. What symbol would be in between? Less than or equal. So we're going to write a sentence just with math words. I skipped one. Did my number 3 just go disappear? There we go. I'll add it in. Example 3. To ride a roller coaster at the fair, you must be more than 5 feet tall. And then they have this written. Is this correct? Or no? Okay. Explain. It seems right, but if you read the sentence carefully, it is false. Because this one says you could be exactly 5 feet, but what does the sentence say? You must be more than 5 feet. So how would we show just more than? Height greater than 5. So the wording can get really particular here, right? If it says must be at least 5 feet tall, then 5 would be included. But if it says more than, then 5 is not included. All right, example number 4. So we're going to just start by writing the mathematical part, right? If we just wrote a sentence explaining this mathematically, 2 times a number, that's what, plus 3 is less than 12. Perfect. So can we think of a real life situation for this? Be creative. Something at $12.
You got some toonies, and then you got some loonies with the threes.
Okay.
You got $2 times the number plus $3,
Yeah.
which is less than $12.
So we're gonna. I like the toonies. So a person has some toonies and 3 loonies. They have less than $12. Does this make sense for how much money they have, the expression? Right? Here's the 3 loonies. And every toonie that they have, which is the X, is worth $2. But the total amount of money they have is less than 12. Could they have 3 toonies? Could they have 5 toonies? No. Could they have no toonies? Yes. Now, mathematically, can you see if you put a -1 in for X, it's true? -2 plus 3 would be less than 12. If I put a -1 for X, or a minus number for X, it's still true for the first sentence. But for our second sentence, it no longer makes sense. You can't have -2 toonies. Maybe a person's in debt. Okay. Ooh, a double inequality. Water is a liquid when it's between 0 degrees and 100 degrees. 100 is hot, 0 isn't. It's cold, but not like you're going to die cold. 100 is you're going to die hot. Ooh. So a double inequality, sometimes a value is in between 2 things. In between 0 and 100 would look like this. So 2 ways you can read the double inequality. You can read a double inequality just from left to right. If I read it from left to right, here I would have 0 is less than the temperature is less than 100. Okay, does that make sense? You can also read it from the middle. Like t is in between, so this means t is bigger than 0 when I go that way, and less than 100. Does that make sense? You can read it, t is bigger than 0, t is less than 100. So t is in between 0 and 100. To be considered a teenager, you must be over 12 years but under 20. Ooh. I don't know if I agree with this.
No, because 12 you're a teenager. Because what if you're 12 years in one day?
Yeah, if you're 12 years in one day, are you a teenager? No. So this part's okay. Under 20 is fine. But I think this part should be
13 years.
at least 13 would be a better way of writing it. So if it was written the way that it's written, which I think it's wrong because 12 years in one day is over 12, but you're still not a teenager. The way that you would write that is you would say that your age is bigger than 12, but less than 20.
Yeah,
But I agree that that isn't quite right for actual. This is better. At least 13 would be 13. Your age is greater than or equal to, but still less than 20. We're going all right?
is this like a unit in itself? Or?
This is a mini section. Technically, there's 3 units that could be combined, but I gave you a little test on the pattern one, and then solving the equations and inequalities, I'll give you another test on. So I'll put the inequalities and the solving equations together.
The solving equation is just like figuring different numbers.
Yeah, that's right.
And when's that going to be?
We've got 2 lessons of this, so it'll be probably, could be as early as the end of the week or beginning of next week. So here's a number line. If I said x is equal to 3, you would put it right here. When we want to say that x is bigger than or equal to 3 on a number line, we draw an arrow because it goes on.
What is it for method, though? What does that mean?
Method, I'm going to add some notes here. First note,
Why is there?
so we're going to use a solid dot if it can equal the value. So this one says x is greater than or equal to 3. We put a solid dot at 3.
Wait, I'm confused on the open dot. You get the solid dot, but like,
We'll do an example with an open dot. Okay? So we use an open dot if it doesn't equal the value. So in this next example, I'll wait for you to write it down. Sorry, going a little quick. So here, r is less than or equal to 0. There's a line there, so when we go to 0, we would use a solid dot. Less than would be which direction? This way. So that's how we would show it on a number line. But example B doesn't have that equal sign. Now t is less than -2. So when you go to -2, this time it's an open dot or an open circle. That means it doesn't equal. And then the arrow in this case would still go this way because t is still less than -2. So that's the difference between the open dot and the solid dot. And for this one, okay, this one's interesting. The x is on this side. So I'd actually read it this way. X is greater than -3. So I'd go to -3, open circle because there's no equal sign. Greater than would be this way. Can you see that this is the same as writing it like that? X is greater than -3. You can write inequalities either way and read them either way. Yeah, what are we going to do in this next one? Yeah, so x is between -1 and 3. At -1, are you going to do open dot or closed dot? Closed dot at -1. And at 3? Open. You don't need an arrow because it's just in between those values. Oops, I missed one. -2.5. Uh-oh. What are you going to do? I know, but where do I put -2.5? Yeah, just in between. So there we go. Open dot in between. And at 0.5? Solid dot. I mean, it's pretty obvious this is what we did, right? With a line. Double inequality, we just joined those two dots with a line. So far, not so bad, right? Here we go. We need to sketch these. The average person uses more than 324 liters of, oh my goodness. Sure. It's right, I fixed it on yours?
Yeah.
Okay. If. Do you think we use that much water a day?
Yeah.
That's a
Showering, from using the toilet, from washing machine.
yeah. That's a lot of water though for one person. So if we wrote it, water is greater than 324. If I drew a number line, why would it not be a good idea to write 0 here and write,
Because you want to count all the way up to 3.
right?
Okay, if we did this on a number line, right?
Yeah, you could just do,
Like, would you just put the dot there, or like, because the average person doesn't say like.
you could do something like this, right? Put 324s in the middle of your number line. Your number line keeps going. You could go at 324, open circle. Which way would your arrow go? Right or left?
I just do it. Like a right left tattooed on myself.
Passing grade in math is a minimum of 50%. So your grade has to be, what sign would go in between here?
This one. It
It has
has to be and the line underneath.
to be and a line underneath. Perfect. Greater than or equal. So again,
I know what I don't get it. I don't know that, but I just stuck up there. Could you go by tens on a number line?
I kind of think in this one, okay, which do you think is better for this one? Which one's better? Like technically this, the way that it's stated, you just need greater than or equal to 50.
I mean,
But can you, is like you can't get more than 100. So depending on how you want to analyze, if this was a question and you had done this, closed this circle in and drawn the arrow, I would have given you full marks based on how the question is worded. If you also put a full circle there and just connected those, that also I would give you full marks.
100%.
Because it's not like, oh, what was your math and science last semester? Oh, it was 271.
Has anybody ever got to 100% math? I never.
Yes, some people have got 100%. Insurance premiums are cheapest for people between 30 and 50. So we have age, we have 30, and we have 50. And you notice that the in-between ones are always, oh, in between,
But yeah.
there wouldn't be no equal sign, right? So when we draw our number line here,
So does it matter what the insurance, how much it costs or anything, or just like age between 30 and 50?
yeah, age between 30 and 50.
But like if you just looked at that and didn't know the question, that wouldn't make sense because like you wouldn't know anything.
No, you wouldn't know what it's standing for. Mm-hmm. Okay. So
We get out in 20 minutes.
at the bottom of the page, page 347, there are some questions to do, and we'll work on those now.
Like in our like.
In your text.